We had played Willie and Linda Loman, husband and wife, in Debt of a Salesman in 1965, so I knew Benny. Weren't they a little hard to picture riding on elephants? Oh, that kind of circus was a herring circus. Hello, Mama. What are you thinking? Why are you yelling at me? I have no idea what you're talking about. Rue McClanahan's journey on the Golden Girls began on an ordinary day and was changed by a simple phone call. An agent from ICM was on the other end of the queue, excited about a new opportunity. A script from NBC was on its way to her door, and it would soon be the start of a major turning point in her career. When Rue took the script from the Courier, it was wrapped in nothing but a plain envelope. The title, The Golden Girls, caught her attention, and she felt a rush of anticipation. Without hesitation, Rue dove into the script and fell in love with Blanche right away. Girls, look at that man over there, he's undressing me with his eyes, she thought. She quickly called her agent to say she wanted to audition for Blanche, but her agent told her that the role was probably going to Betty White and suggested Rue try out for the role of Rose instead, even though she wasn't sure she would be a good fit. At the audition, Rue was determined to be a part of this promising show. However, at the last minute, Jay Sandrich, the director, asked her to do something she hadn't planned on. He asked her to read for Blanche. Rue, being flexible, agreed and did a great job in her impromptu performance, which clearly impressed Sandrich. After this, Rue got a call from Susan Harris, the show's creator, who needed her to convince B. Arthur to join the cast as Dorothy B. because she was afraid the show might be a repeat of. Rue told her that the relationships between the characters would be different this time, so B's participation became very important. Estelle Jai, who was cast as Sophia after a great performance in a play, completed the ensemble by adding a unique dynamic with her sharp wit and small stature. We're not going to do anything, Blanche. It took me a month to find this dress. You're just going to have to take your back, she said in a funny way, contrasting with B's towering presence. Auditions for the Golden Girls were held all over New York and Los Angeles, with many actresses vying for the roles. The producers were looking for a perfect blend of talent and chemistry, which they finally found in Rue, Betty B, and Estelle. This perfect match of actors led to a memorable audition in front of 4 NBC executives, where they won unanimous approval with their performance. Interestingly, Elaine Schiss was also in the running for a role known for her. Strong on stage, she almost ruined her chances by insisting on adding swear words to her audition script, which was strongly advised against by the producers, who wanted the characters to stay true to their vision and not be changed by an actor's personal flair. As the show went on, it became clear that none of the actresses were exactly like their characters. Rue often joked about the differences between herself and Blanche, saying things like, "Oh, I wasn't paying attention. I was fantasizing what Tom Brule looks like naked," referring to Blanche. Characters were over-the-top, flamboyant, and vivacious for comedic effect. Betty, who was often seen as the brains of the group, gave Rose depth when she was otherwise naive and overly optimistic. Through the Golden Girls, the actors not only found important roles that would define their careers, but they also created a beloved show that people loved for its humor, warmth, and real people. The stars had a connection with each other, and the casting, which was initially full of doubts and possible TP casting, turned out to be a stroke of luck that brought out the best in each actress, securing the show's place as a classic in television history. The show's final curtain, Rue McClanahan, a beloved employee of NBC who was known as America's Rue, everyone's sweetheart, was known for her wit, charm, and lively personality. She became famous later in life, at age 51, when she played one of the main characters on the hit TV show The Golden Girls. This role made her very popular, and people loved how she played a lively woman who was always looking for love, just like her character. Newman is a guest in our home. If I'm self-conscious, he'll be sick at ease. I can't let that happen. It would be un as Southern. Despite her success and positive attitude, Rue had serious health problems, including several situations that could have killed her. People who knew her well saw how upset and in pain she was, which often sent her to the hospital. Her health problems were so bad that there were times when she didn't think she would make it through these crises. She was lucky to survive several times, but her luck didn't last forever. On June 3, 2010, Rue McClanahan died in New York Presbyterian Hospital. She was 76 years old, and the cause of her death was a stroke, which is usually caused by a blood clot in the brain. It's interesting that at the time of her stroke, Rue was taking Warren, a strong drug meant to stop blood clots, which raised questions about how she died so suddenly months before she died. Rue went to the B. Arthur Memorial at New York's Majestic Theater as a close friend and co-worker of B's from both May and the Golden Girls. She was invited to speak, and her lively spirit shone through as she entertained the crowd with funny stories, showing no signs of her age or health problems at the time. At the same time, she was enjoying her life with her sixth husband, Merle Wilson, marking the start of her longest and perhaps. Despite her lively public appearances, Rue's health was always a concern. She lived an active lifestyle, which can lower the risk of health problems like strokes, especially in older adults. Her public energy and personal health problems were in stark contrast, which made it harder to understand how she died so suddenly. Born in 1934 in Hilton, Oklahoma, Rue was the first child in her family and grew up in poverty. After moving to Ardmore, Oklahoma, she became a famous actress among her peers. Her first marriage to actor Tom Bish was rough and ended soon after the birth of their son Mark. The end of this marriage and the responsibilities of motherhood were hard on her, causing her a lot of emotional pain. Despite these problems, Rue was determined to pursue her acting career. The secret pains of Rue McClanahan seemed happy and involved in her final project. Even though she seemed to be in good health, she had a history of knee problems that went back to her early acting days. Most notably, she had surgery on her knees 2 years before she died, when she was 74 years old. This surgery, while common, came with a lot of risks, especially the risk of blood clots from being immobile for a long time during recovery. In 2005, Rue, then 72 years old, accepted a part in the Broadway musical Wicked, which was performed on a rack stage. This type of stage, which is tilted for visual effect, put extra stress on her already weak knees. Her dedication to performing was a big part of who she was, but the physical demands of her job definitely left a lasting mark on her body. Rue had a lot of mental health problems. In the months before she died, she performed in a comedy show where she made fun of her physical limitations by doing what she joked was sit-down comedy, but behind her charming public persona, Rue battled severe anxiety. This anxiety wasn't a new thing, it had been going on for a long time. Rue had anxiety that got worse over time because her father was away during World War II and her husband left her right after their son was born. Rue's anxiety showed up in the form of panic attacks that started when she was young and got worse with age. These attacks were worst at dusk and often went into the night, which showed her deepest fears of being abandoned. Even though her attacks got worse over time, she found relief in her love for animals. As a passionate pet owner, her relationships with animals probably helped her deal with her anxiety. Hi, my name is Rue McClanahan, and I'm excited to be hosting this video about caring for and loving dogs. Unfortunately, her condition needed medical help, which led to prescriptions for strong drugs like lorazepam, which helped her manage her symptoms by calming her down. She had to take this medicine to control her severe anxiety attacks, which could raise her blood pressure and make her more likely to have a stroke. Rue's autobiography also mentions another problem that didn't go away, a mysterious pain that followed her around for a lot of her life. A pain in her right tings that has been described but not fully diagnosed adds another layer of complexity to her health profile. Until we know where this pain comes from, it will remain another piece in the complicated puzzle of her health. Rue McClanahan's life, which has been full of dramatic highs and painful lows, shows this. The deep strength and vulnerability of a woman who handled the pressures of Hollywood with grace and humor, as well as her struggles with both physical and mental health, bring to light the battles she fought behind closed doors. There's nothing worse or stronger than I think Rue loved pretending she was Blanche. I think in reality she was a shy little girl battles that she. When faced with the same bravery and determination that defined her famous career, Blanche Sophia and Dorothy R. McClanahan talked about the interesting differences between the actresses' real-life personalities and the characters they played on the popular show, The Golden Girls. She joked that none of them were very similar to their on-screen characters. For example, Rue played Blanche Dio, a flamboyant and romantically adventurous Southern belle, but in real life she was much more quiet and practical. Rue often made fun of the big difference between the two, saying that Blanche's extravagant and seductive traits were just made up for fun. We also learned that she has a crush on Rose and that Blanche stops at the door when she comes home. Comes back into the room and says, "Rose, what's wrong with me?" in interviews. Rue would jokingly deny that she was involved in Blanche's over-the-top romantic adventures. She used her sharp wit to emphasize that the characters were created with dramatic flair to capture audiences rather than being true to life. This dramatic flair was a key part of the show's appeal, combining humor with exaggerated realities to explore themes of friendship and independence as people get older. Betty White's portrayal of the innocent and kind-hearted Rose Nyland was very different from her own personality. Off-screen, Betty was not at all like the clueless Rose she played on TV. Her real-life savviness and quick wit were very different from how her character Rose often didn't know what to do with everyday situations. Betty's ability to give Rose a genuine warmth and comedic innocence, despite her own sophistication, showed how good an actress she was. Estelle Getty played the sassy and sharp-tongued Sophia Petrillo, who was known for her cutting remarks and strong-willed personality. Off-screen, Estelle was much softer and less forceful than Sophia. She often said she wanted her character to reflect her own Jewish heritage because she thought it would make the role more true to her own identity. Estelle's comedic timing and ability to deliver zingers were natural parts of her personality, but she was much more approachable and gentle than her character. B. Arthur's character Dorothy Zborax was known for her no-nonsense attitude and sarcastic wit, which she did share to some extent. However, B's personal success and happiness in life were very different from Dorothy's often portrayed struggles and frustrations. B's off-screen persona was enhanced by a deep understanding of comedy and human behavior, allowing her to bring depth and there was more to Dorothy's character than meets the eye, but I didn't know what rotten meant until I saw BL. For heaven's sake, she is so deliciously rotten that anything that moves is her target. The actress's relationship off-screen was one of mutual respect and professional friendship, which was very different from the family fights and comedic arguments their characters often got into. The actresses who played the characters brought a magic to the screen that connected with viewers, making the characters loved by many but also very different from each other. Each actress brought something different to her role. When she was writing Blanche, Rue McClanahan gave an interesting look into how Blanche Dio's accent on The Golden Girls was written, a process marked by early disagreements and creative growth. Blanche was more Southern than the famous Blanche Dubois from A Streetcar Named Desire that came from Atlanta. With this in mind, Rue naturally gave her performance a Southern accent to make it more real. However, during the pilot episode, director Jay Sandridge had a different vision and asked Rue to drop the Southern accent and use her natural Oklahoma accent instead. Rue was surprised by this order because she thought Blanche's identity as a Georgian belle depended on having a strong Southern accent. Despite her objections, Rue did what Sandridge asked, though her Southern accent was a little softer than she had imagined. This compromise showed an issue that many actors face: how to balance their own ideas with what the director wants. After the pilot, there was a change in directors, which brought a fresh perspective. Paul Bogart, the new director for the series, was open to Rue's original idea of a strong Southern accent, which matched with the show's producers, who Rue joked were tall and pony. At first, this change confused Rue, who thought she was still being told to tone down her Southern accent, but after talking to the producers about it, she was told to go back to her original instinct and embrace a full Southern accent for Blanche. Rue was excited about this. To make her character more Southern, she looked to a family member, her mother's cousin Aunt Pearl, for ideas. Aunt Pearl, who was trying to distance herself from her Southern Oklahoma roots, had created a unique accent that mixed English poshness with Southern charm. While the rest of the family found Aunt Pearl's accent confusing and unreal, Rue saw it as the perfect base for Blanche's over-the-top Southernness. Southern belle persona Rue decided to adopt, but not directly copy, Aunt Pearl's accent in order to make Blanche's accent stand out. She wanted to create an accent that was so uniquely Southern that it was unlike any other, exaggerated, and full of charm in order to captivate and entertain, though Rue herself found it funny how ridiculous it was. The creative process of creating Blanche's accent shows how an actor's creative input and the collaborative nature of television production shows how a character on paper can become a beloved icon on screen with the help of directors, actors, and producers. Rue's work on creating Blanche's identity shows the artistry of acting, showing how personal experiences, directorial feedback, and creative risks can come together to bring a fictional character to life in a way that connects with viewers.